gonna come for us.
The film opens with a quote that sets the tone of the story. After that, we are shown a pawn shop in a city. A man named Drake enters the shop. He slowly walks around, carefully observing the place and the items inside. At that time, the shop owner is busy dealing with another customer. Drake then shows the owner an antique mid-century French clock. While the shop owner starts checking it, Drake quietly hides behind the counter. Before the owner can understand anything, the clock was actually a setup. It explodes, and the situation suddenly goes out of control.
Looks like imitation.
Well, at least it's sticking.
Within moments, Drake's team rushes inside. This was not a normal robbery. Beneath the pawn shop, there is a large underground area where illegal activities are taking place. A huge amount of cash, around $20 million, is stored there. After threatening the man in charge of the place, after securing the money, Drake and his team prepare to leave. However, there are still a few people downstairs. Drake wants to end their lives, so no evidence remains. His partner Penn tells him that these people saw nothing and should be spared. Drake seems to agree at first, but later he traps them inside a room, throws a grenade in, and seals the door, making sure none of them get out.
They ain't seen shit, bro. Okay.
The stolen money is taken to another location where their ruthless and powerful boss, Rhodes, meets the team. Pleased with the successful robbery, he tells them they will receive their shares once the money reaches a specific destination. Drake also learns that their old pilot is gone and has been replaced. Before leaving, Rhodes personally places a GPS tracker on the case. Soon after, severe weather causes the plane carrying all the money to crash. 5 months later, the story moves to Montana, deep in Native American land. There we meet Harlan, a man living alone in the wilderness. Though labeled a poacher, his life is shaped by tragedy. Harlan was married to a Native American woman, and they deeply loved each other. While he was serving in the Afghanistan war, their daughter died from a lung infection. When he returned, his wife had changed, turned to addiction to cope with grief, and eventually passed away. With nothing left, Harlan chooses to live in isolation in the wilderness. Harlan lives a nomadic life in the wilderness, with no permanent home, moving from place to place. It is winter, and the nearby lake is completely frozen. While ice fishing, Harlan notices a human hand trapped beneath the ice. A ring on the finger reveals it is the missing pilot who was carrying the stolen money, and that his plane crashed in this area. Harlan breaks the ice, finds the frozen body, and spots a hard-locked case nearby. He opens it and discovers a large amount of cash, but shows no greed. He also notices the crashed plane and later takes the case back to his shelter. The next day, we meet Annie, a Native American game warden in the area, who is also a single mother. Her young daughter is cared for by a babysitter. Annie is an honest warden. While on duty, she stops 2 tourists from ice fishing, believing the ice is too thin. Sheriff Raleigh is willing to allow them, but Annie refuses. The tourists get upset, so Raleigh steps in to calm the situation. He later tells Annie that tourists are important for the area's income and asks her not to be so strict. The scene then shifts to Penn, who has become a religious man, guiding others toward a better path. One day, his old friend Drake visits him. After mocking Penn's new lifestyle, Drake tells him that the tracker on the money case has been activated. The plane containing $20 million is submerged in a lake. Drake explains they have a team and diving equipment, and plan to recover the money without causing trouble. Since Penn knows the land well, Drake needs him as a guide. Penn refuses at first, but Drake reminds him how dangerous Rhodes is, eventually convincing him to help. Drake's former team members regroup and head toward the frozen lake. Elsewhere, Annie helps a local man, Jed, whose car is stuck on the frozen lake. From a distance, they notice Harlan approaching. Jed recognizes him and says Harlan wanders the area, possibly searching for his wife, leading Annie to believe he is a poacher. Annie asks Harlan for a fishing license. When he cannot provide one, she searches his belongings and finds a hard case filled with cash, shocking everyone. Harlan says he found it under the ice, but his story is hard to believe. Annie arrests Harlan and puts him in handcuffs. Jed is stunned and jokes that Harlan must have robbed a casino. Annie informs Sheriff Raleigh about the discovery, and even the sheriff is surprised, deciding to come there himself. Before Annie can leave with Harlan, Drake and his team arrive. Penn has warned Drake that the ice will start melting within 10 hours, and they know the case is moving. Drake demands his case when the signal leads him there. When Annie pretends ignorance, he threatens her with a gun.
Get on your fucking knees.
Penn searches the truck and finds only one case. Furious, Drake asks Annie where the rest of the money is. Before he can harm her, Harlan pushes Drake away, triggering a shootout. Jed fires back while Annie tries to escape, but her truck is still tied to Jed's vehicle. Harlan unties and jumps into the truck with her, but Jed does not survive. During the chaos, Serena jumps into the warden's truck and fights Harlan. She escapes with the case, but it falls into the lake, sending the money underwater. Enraged, Drake and his team chase after Annie and Harlan, but their truck has a flat tire from the gunfire. Needing help, Serena calls her boyfriend, Dax, who is also part of Drake's team. Annie drives fast, trying to get away from the dangerous situation she never wanted to be part of. She questions Harlan, asking if he is involved in all this. Harlan explains that he only found the case and also saw the crashed plane the others are searching for. Annie tries to contact Sheriff Raleigh, but cannot reach him. Soon after, their vehicle breaks down completely. With no choice, they continue on foot. Annie wants to reach a station about 2 miles away. Trusting Harlan, she removes his handcuffs. To avoid the risk of falling through the ice, they tie themselves together with a rope and move forward carefully. Meanwhile, Drake and his team are still stranded. Penn spots an owl and sees it as a bad sign, though the others dismiss it. Once the vehicle is repaired, Ellis starts driving. But the thin ice gives way and the car sinks. They manage to pull Ellis out just in time. As Annie and Harlan move forward, Harlan realizes they will not reach the station in time. He advises Annie to go to his shelter instead, where he has gear and weapons that might help them survive. Annie agrees and follows him. Meanwhile, Dax, Drake's teammate, arrives to help and begins chasing them on a snowmobile. Annie and Harlan are still far from the shore when the ice starts cracking, forcing them to run and barely make it to safety.
Whoa, wait!
At his shelter, Harlan immediately grabs his bow and arrow and sets bear traps around the area. While checking his belongings, Annie notices photos of Harlan's wife and child, but he says nothing at that moment. Soon, they spot Dax approaching. Harlan's traps work, flipping Dax's snowmobile. A brutal fight follows.
They're gonna come for us.
Harlan shoots Dax with an arrow, but then falls into the icy water. He manages to climb out and injures Dax's leg. Just as Dax is about to finish Harlan, Annie triggers a bear trap on Dax's head, ending the threat in a painful way. Annie pulls Harlan away from the water, and they escape from the area. A short time later, Drake and his team reach the area where Dax and Harlan fought. When Serena sees Dax's body, she breaks down. He was her boyfriend. Drake tells her they will take revenge. Filled with anger, Serena picks up Dax's gun and moves forward. Meanwhile, Annie is with Harlan and tells him she knows a safe place they should reach. However, Drake and his team soon spot them. Serena starts firing, but Drake stops her because he wants Harlan alive. Harlan realizes they have followed their footprints. The group enters the forest, forcing Annie and Harlan to move through water to erase their tracks. Even then, Penn, an experienced tracker, is able to read their movements and follow the same path. Soon, Penn realizes they have entered a sacred place known as a medicine wheel, a hunting ground, and bear territory. He warns the group not to proceed. Serena ignores him, dismisses the warning, and pushes forward. Suddenly, she falls into a trap, badly injuring her leg. Her teammates manage to pull her out. Using this moment, Annie and Harlan escape further and eventually take shelter inside a cave. Because Harlan's clothes are soaked, he starts shaking from the cold. Annie lights a fire and asks him to remove his wet clothes. She tries to help him stay warm using body heat. Annie asks if it is true that he is searching for his wife. Harlan replies that he is not searching for her because she is already gone. He then shares his painful past, which makes Annie feel deeply sorry for him. Annie tells Harlan about a cleansing ritual from her people, meant to help someone heal from grief. She encourages him to leave his guilt behind and accept life again. Meanwhile, Drake and his team take shelter in an abandoned cabin. Inside, they first treat Serena's badly injured foot. Shortly after, Rhodes arrives. Drake assures him that everything is under control. Rhodes tells Serena that they will take revenge. Rhodes then reveals that one of their own has been betraying them for a long time and planned the money theft. That person is Ellis. Shocked, Ellis panics and begs for forgiveness, but Rhodes stabs him repeatedly, killing him on the spot. The next morning, Annie and Harlan continue moving through the area. Harlan tells Annie that she knows this land very well. Annie explains that she grew up here, these are her people, and she belongs to the Blackfoot tribe. At this point, Annie is heading toward her tribe, who soon find her and Harlan. Their leader, Oz, listens as Annie explains everything. However, Oz clearly dislikes Harlan. Harlan's wife belonged to the same tribe, and after what happened to her, Oz holds Harlan responsible. Harlan tries to explain that he and his wife truly loved each other. Annie also tells Oz that dangerous people are hunting them and that Harlan is in her custody, so she cannot simply abandon him. After hearing this, Oz finally agrees to help. As they move forward, Oz shows them a place beneath the ice where a forest once existed thousands of years ago. Because it is now trapped under ice, methane gas has built up there, making the area dangerous. He warns them to stay alert. Soon, they reach Oz's territory. Oz criticizes Annie for joining the authorities and distancing herself from her people. Annie responds that she did it to protect them. Later, Harlan speaks privately with Oz and explains that the people chasing them are actually searching for a crashed plane carrying millions of dollars. He adds that if the money is found, it could benefit Oz's people. Oz accuses Harlan of trying to buy forgiveness with money, but Harlan says he only wants to something good for her people. Meanwhile, Annie waits for Sheriff Raleigh to arrive, and he soon does. When Annie asks about backup, Raleigh tells her not to worry. For now, he says he must inform the department about the crashed plane. This shocks Annie because she never mentioned the plane to him. Raleigh then reveals his true intention, saying this is a great opportunity for all of them. If they help find the plane, everyone stands to gain something from it. When Annie refuses to agree, Sheriff Raleigh forces both her and Harlan into his vehicle. At the same time, Rhodes and his group are nearby, waiting. Before the sheriff can hand them over, Harlan tells him he does not need to deal with the gang. Instead, Harlan offers to take him directly to the crashed plane, promising that all the money will be his. Greed takes over, and the sheriff agrees. When he asks where the plane is, Harlan says there is a GPS inside his bag that can show the exact coordinates. As the sheriff reaches into the bag, his hand gets caught in a hidden trap, causing intense pain. The vehicle loses control and flips over. Harlan breaks the window and pulls Annie out. The sheriff is badly injured, but still tries to threaten them with his gun. From a distance, Rhodes sees everything happen and moves in with his men. Serena fires from afar, and one shot hits the sheriff, killing him instantly. Annie and Harlan take cover behind the overturned vehicle. When Serena gets closer, Harlan outsmarts her, grabs the sheriff's gun, and shoots her, ending the threat. Rhodes then confronts Harlan and demands that he lead them to the plane. Since Annie is no longer useful to him, Rhodes orders Penn to kill her. But Penn refuses, as he has left violence behind. Penn refuses to harm Annie, so Rhodes shoots him. Before dying, Penn throws a lighter near Rhodes's feet. As Oz had warned earlier, methane gas trapped under the ice ignites, setting Rhodes on fire and killing him. In the chaos, Drake, Annie, and Harlan manage to escape, but Harlan gets separated from Annie. While searching for her, Drake calls out. He has captured Annie. Drake threatens to end her life, unless Harlan takes him to the crashed plane. To prove he is serious, Drake fires a shot close to Annie's ear. Before Drake can shoot again, Annie pushes him. During the struggle, Harlan is shot in the shoulder. Drake keeps attacking, but Annie fights back again, and the struggle continues. In the final moment, Harlan uses a sharp piece of wood and drives it into Drake's neck, ending his life. The scene cuts there. In the next scene, under Oz's supervision, Harlan observes a 4-day fast to release his grief over Mia. The tribe then performs the cleansing ritual Annie mentioned earlier. During the ritual, Harlan sees visions of Mia, cries, and finally begins to let go of his pain. Sometime later, Annie tells Oz that the police recovered $4 million from the crashed plane, even though there were $20 million originally. Annie asks if Harlan gave Oz the remaining money, especially since Oz has decided to build a hospital for his people. Oz jokingly replies that the money came from fishing, and Annie chooses not to question it further. In the final moments, we see Harlan teaching Annie's daughter how to fish. Both Harlan and Annie believe that things will finally be okay.